I mean, I guess we want to get started. Does anyone have like a question or a thing that they noticed that they want to get us going on?
Right? We thought.
Okay, well, I guess. Um, I just was kind of looking over, I really like took my book and I was like dividing it into like go through the summaries and whatever. So, in the first chapter of this part three, it is about the four foundational harms. I know I felt like again we might get a bit of a downer because we're still talking about some of the challenges and
Yep.
why the generation, like why this is the anxious generation. We're still kind of defining the problem in this one. Um, so maybe we should talk about like some of the evidences that we have seen. Do you feel like you are seeing these things in our students or in, some of the young people that we associate with? So those four harms were the social deprivation, the sleep deprivation, the attention fragmentation, and the addiction. Um, do you feel
I
like,
think
go ahead,
I've been out
Patrick.
of the classroom for a year, but um,
It's
most
only,
certainly it most certainly saw all four of these. But um, the ones you see in a classroom are a little more challenging because there's still some of the stuff is going on outside the classroom. But just by the way the kids were falling asleep all the time, and if you just talk to them and ask them, how late were you up and how much sleep did you get? They're certainly being sleep deprived for sure. And the addiction part is extremely clear. You see that as whenever you try and remove a phone from somebody. Um, it's been a few years, but I remember I had a sophomore in a class and she had her phone. And so, and, the rule in my classroom was you couldn't have it out, you couldn't use it. And so she was using it. So I took it from her. And I had a closet on the side of the room that locked. So I would put her phone in there and lock it because I didn't want the phones just floating around where something bad could happen to it, and then therefore something bad would happen to me. Um, so I took this and put it in the closet, and I was shocked by what happened. And I kid you not, she stood up and she walked over to the cabinet and was just like pounding on it and going, no, because her phone was locked up and she couldn't get it. And I mean, it was just like, are you kidding me? So attached to that phone, needing to have that phone with her so badly that she's just throwing a fit when she can't have it. So, I mean, she was completely addicted to that.
yeah.
And certainly the attention fragmentation. Kids are usually in my school, they've just changed the rule this year. And I don't know, I want to go and talk to them about how it's working, but the kids could have the phones with them and they were always on them. Even if you told them not to, they were on them, right? So they're not paying attention. In a class like physics, it's a little difficult to kind of learn the content if you're not attending to what's going on. So I think the evidence, even though it's anecdotal for me, it was very clear. All of those harms were happening all at the same time.
So to say, like, and it's this is just my personal kids, not kids in school, but my own kids at home. They're like on the cusp. So like they had a childhood that was phone free, right? So they went out and played outside and did all those things, and essentially there wasn't any social media or um, digital correspondence until they were uh, you know late in high school. Or my youngest, they were in high school for that, and my oldest were like in college for that. Now with my four, was interesting. What I noticed was they actually do pretty well socially. Like they use it, they truly use it as a tool to extend, their interactions and their communication and maintain friendships. Kind of like I like to think that I use it the same way, right? But I agree with you, Patrick. Like seeing the difference between those kids that had the childhood without the social media and then introduced to the technology and the tools. I think the way that they, and I would think that I use it, as opposed to the kids that don't have that disparate experience where they know what it's like to live without a phone. I think to me, like that just resonates. Like that kind of reinforces his point to me, is that adults seem to be able to handle it and use it as tools, those that came across it, later in life. But there does in fact seem to be a difference with the kids that didn't have a childhood without the phone. And it is a struggle to get it away from them. That's for sure.
My two daughters, one's 36 and one's 30, so they were a little before this. They kind of had a little bit of the play-based childhood, but not totally. It's like he says in the book early on that we kind of, as parents, we kind of hovered over them a little bit, and so they didn't get the chance to go out and break a leg.
Yeah.
Nowhere near that. But my youngest, when she got her first phone, I just wanted to say it's not necessarily social media that can be the problem. So she got her first phone, and it was just a dumb phone. It wasn't a smartphone at all. At 13, I certainly didn't think she needed a smartphone. But texting was kind of new, and I will never forget the first statement we got from the phone company. Thank goodness it was unlimited texting, because she had been a party to, and I'm not exaggerating here, 13,000 text messages in 1 month.
Yeah.
She was either sending or receiving. And I did the math, and it's like, every 2 or 3 minutes of your waking hours, you're in that phone. And so attention fragmentation, wow. It wasn't fragmented, it was just gone. But it wasn't just social media doing that. Social media is even worse. It's even more attention grabbing. So
Agreed.
Yeah, that makes sense. My first, I don't know, I guess interaction with students who were being distracted by phones was also, I think, texting. It was, I think they had smartphones. It's when I was working in Kurdistan. I taught there for 2 years from 2012 to 2014. And I had gotten my very first iPhone because I could text with it overseas. I didn't even have an iPhone then. So I remember buying my iPhone and, then going overseas with it. And I was on a college campus at the American University of Iraq. And my students I was teaching freshman biology. And my students were coming to me saying, so these were 18, 19, some of them were even in their early 20s because they had to pass an English language course before they could get to be a freshman, because it was all English instruction. So they were anywhere from 18 to say 22. And they came to me and they said, we don't understand. We studied for 8 hours for this test and we failed it. And that's why they just kept repeating how many hours they studied, how many hours they studied. So I sat down with them. There were three girls, I think, or 4. And I said, well, let's track what you were doing during those 8 hours. Because my goal is for you to study for 1 hour and get an A, not 8 hours and get an F. And when I had them write down I said, tell me about the space and was there a phone in it? And so sure enough, we discovered that of those 8 hours, 0 minutes of it were phone free. Now, I don't know if it was 8 hours. They could have been exaggerating too. Students do that. So maybe it was more like 4, but none of those minutes were phone free. And I asked them if they were using their phones or other devices as a study group. Because if you guys are studying together and you're using it to communicate and ask each other questions, I could see why that would be helpful. No, they were using it to be on social media.
Personally.
And so we had this great conversation about how much of that time do you actually think you were studying, and how much do you think you were learning, versus how much of that time were you just on social media. I don't think I used that term. I said, how much of that time were you on the internet or were you on your phone? And because they were a little older and had already been at the university for a few years, they really took the conversation to heart and they changed. They changed, and by the end of the first semester that I had them, they were different students in terms of how they were organizing their space and how they were studying. And they came to me and they said, yeah, it worked. We're only studying for an hour or two and we're doing much better. That conversation I've had with younger students when I came back to the US and started teaching high school and middle school has never gone that way.
So, Christy, my takeaway from that is you need to write a book about your resume of teaching. I mean, it sounds like you've had
I've been all over.
You've been all over doing all kinds of things.
Yeah, that was an interesting 2 years. I mean, we used our phones for safety reasons because we went out in the middle of the wilderness in Iraq, and we didn't have a name for ISIS at the time, but they were out there and setting up checkpoints, and thank God everything was okay. But so yeah, we used it for safety, but I had a USAID grant. I had a little anecdote. I had a USAID grant that was a partnership with NSF. We were working with Miami University of Ohio. We wanted to make the first research experience for undergrads internationally. And we did. We got money for it, but USAID kept hounding me and hounding me and hounding me to set up a Twitter page or an Instagram. And I didn't have any of that. And I said, I don't want to tweet where I am. I'm on the border between Iraq and Iran in the mountains, wandering around trying to collect insects from streams with Americans and Kurds and Arabs. And like, no, I am not going to tweet where I am. And I felt like they didn't respect what we were doing because we weren't constantly tweeting about it. And that was the year, I think it was the second year I was there, where the campaign came out, the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. Remember when all the students were kidnapped? Yeah. And it took over campus. And for days, it was just posed, hashtag Bring Back Your Girls. And I didn't pose with them, not because I didn't care, I cared deeply about it, but because again, I didn't want to be very careful about what I was advertising, where I was, just because of the nature of being an American working in northern Iraq at the time. And I got a lot of pushback, not from my Iraqi students, but I got a lot of pushback from Americans on this. So it was just this really interesting arc of what is social media used for, and is it good for kids, much less good for adults. And this book has given me a lot to think about that I wish I had 10 years ago.
It's been a real eye-opener for me too. In fact, Brooke, I wanted to thank you for suggesting it this last summer, because I probably wouldn't have come across it, but it's been very eye-opening. And I think a lot of things with the adults, I don't know that they really, I think they all should read this. I was really pleased when my younger daughter, I was talking to her and said, when I'm done with this book, I might let you borrow it. And she goes, well, I'm listening to it on audiobook. And she's got a 5-year-old son and a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old stepson. And it's like, perfect. You need the message. You really need it. But I think a lot of adults, we've never had anything like this to deal with. We would understand about like gambling or watching a lot of television, although even TV is not anywhere near as powerful. But so it's kind of easy to understand maybe why a lot of the parents don't act on it. I don't want to say they don't value it, but they don't see the problem. They don't see the threat. And so they maybe don't do it, or say like, well, I got to have, my kid has to have a phone because I got to be able to get a hold of him. And I don't know, I'm a little older than probably all of you. if I was at school and my mom wanted to get a hold of me, she called the office, and they never once failed to get a hold of me. And then so parents think, well, they got to have a phone, but and then when it comes to a phone, isn't there only one kind of phone now, which is a smartphone? And so here we are planting them into the hands of 9, 10, 11-year-olds or younger, and nobody really knows what they've done, what they're doing. We just don't know. Word hasn't gotten out. So
I
hopefully,
think,
when you were
Patrick, I'm
over
a
in
little,
Iraq, you had your location services turned off. I hope.
I don't think I knew how to turn them on at the time, so I don't know. Maybe they were on by default.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. Yeah, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say I'm a little bit hopeful that maybe parents are coming around. This year, my our back to school night, I actually talked to parents about the phones, and at our school, it's kind of up to us whether the teacher collects the phones or not. I am one of the people that collects the phones. And I have to be pretty consistent about still, right, we're a quarter into the year. I still have to say, put the phones over there. They just wait for the day that I don't say it, so then they keep them. But
So they keep them,
and they've
yep.
been pretty compliant. It probably had maybe not quite the issue you have with somebody having a tantrum, but close with one person. But I also had another student whose parent reached out to me and said, I've talked to my son, and we know that he can't control himself with the phone. So I just want you to know he doesn't have a phone at school. And so I know you're collecting them. He doesn't have one. But the thing I did at back to school night was I did tell parents that I collect the phones. And I also asked them to please be conscious of when they are trying to contact their student during the day, that I often teach the last 2 classes of the day. And I do have kids come up to me like 15 minutes before the end of the period. Can I check my phone? Because I don't know what I'm doing after school. I don't know where I'm going. I said, the more you can try to make a plan by lunchtime about what you're doing with your student, the more attentive they can be in class, because they truly are sometimes they don't know what's going to happen right after school. Like they are used to that communication too, and parents are used to getting a hold of them at any time. And I also just shared a story about my own daughter going to college and feeling so frustrated when I couldn't get a hold of her on her phone. And we ended up just going back to traditional, we'll call everybody at we'll make a call every Sunday and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And I left her alone the rest of the time, and it worked beautifully. So trying to educate the parents a little bit too. I don't think they know the effect that it has just on the flow of trying to keep student attention during the day when these students are, sometimes the parents are part of the problem. So anyway, I didn't get any pushback. I thought I might get somebody complain. I said it to parents of 90 students, and I saw a lot of heads nodding, quite honestly. So I was happy about that.
Yeah, I actually will acknowledge my youngest, who's 13, now goes to a school that is phone free. Like the entire school has just gone to that. So he had a day where he wasn't feeling great, and he actually texted me during lunch, and I didn't know it was during lunch, and I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you reaching out to me?" And I was like so appalled. I could not figure out what was going on. And he's like, "Mom, it's lunch. It's fine, but I don't feel good. Can you come get me?" It's like, but it was like so weird that he had like texted me, and like it was just refreshing that it was the other way around. That yeah, that it was weird, and I like it. And it's just it actually didn't take very much to get people on board. Which was nice. Once like the school made the decision, like this is what we're doing. I feel like there is this wave, there is this shift that's happening that people are seeing like, yeah, this isn't good. What's happening to our kids isn't good. And I think it's not going to take much more to get more parents on. Like, I think there are a few anxious parents. Talk about the anxious generation. There's a few anxious parents, and but the majority, and they're like a very loud minority. But I think the vast majority of people are like, yeah, it's fine. We're good. Like, let's just do this, and let's take these phones away from our kids. But I think there's very few people who want to be the bad guy. But he does talk about that in the last part of the book, so I shouldn't get ahead of myself too much. So anyway.
So far in Louisiana, because they passed a law that went into effect this year that phones are now illegal for kids to have in school. And there was a lot of local news coverage in the first weeks of the school year back in August. Since then, no drama. I mean, I don't hear stories. There's not news articles. Some students had started a petition at one of the local schools, but that didn't seem to go anywhere. So I think it would be on the news more if there were riots at schools because they took their phones away. So either they're not enforcing it or it's not a big deal. But if I hear anything, I'll let you all know. I have to take off in a few minutes, but the one question that I wanted to ask is from a graph, skipping ahead to the chapter about boys, phone use on boys.
Yeah.
It's a graph about visits to the emergency room for, let's see where it is. I think it's visits to the emergency room. Here it is, figure 7.4. Annual rate at which U.S. males are admitted to hospitals for unintentional injuries by age group. And then on the right, same for U.S. females. And I wanted to know, is this only physical injuries? Like, I couldn't quite tell if they were counting any, I mean, I guess it's unintentional injuries. So it's, I just wanted to talk about the shape of that graph and what we think.
My take on that was the movement away from the play-based childhood, where people would go up and climb trees and build forts and swing and they get hurt sometimes. So like, and that number's going down because kids are being sort of hovered over and they're not doing those kinds of things anymore, which I think is, I mean, that's just my take. I could be wrong, of course, but I think it's almost humorous to think that it's like, no, go out and bonk your head a couple of times and that'll help you. But anyway, does that make sense? Is that?
Yeah, I think it does. I wondered if you've seen the overall hospital admissions, like, are they going down overall, or is the number of unintentional being counterbalanced by the number of intentional submissions, kids who are
I'd like to see
hurting
a graph of
themselves
that.
on purpose?
Well, but
I'd like to see that graph.
the graph for 50 to 69-year-old males is rising through that period. So I think it's you guys,
That's good.
Patrick, who are making the tree forts and falling off of.
Well, you got it. I mean, there's nothing like a good
Someone's
tree
gotta
fort,
do
let me
it.
tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone's
I
got
see
to
that
do
now.
it. So kind of just to jump back to where we were, my school district, of course, they're doing all the good stuff after I leave. But the district just went to, it turns out when I was reading this book early on, I texted one of the assistant principals at my old high school and was talking to her about this. And she told me that somebody, probably the superintendent, must have read this book, but gave this book to every administrator in the district and told them to read it. And so they've just implemented a lot of these recommendations, like the elementary schools and the middle schools are no phones at all in the school, period. And I think I don't know if they're just trying to ease into it, but the high schools, they say no phone in classes, but they can have them during passing period and during lunch, which personally, I think that's a mistake. I mean, it's like he talked about how even if the kids aren't actually using the phone, they're thinking about the phone and they're,
there's poop everywhere.
obsessing about the phone. And
I cleaned it up before I took a shower.
Yeah, I would love to do
This is the longest
research.
she's gone without splattering poop everywhere, so this is an improvement.
I know, but this is the longest.
Wait a
Hey,
minute, wait a
Eric, how
minute.
you doing?
Anyway, I'd like to do some research to see if like tardies go up because kids get out in the passing period, pull their phone out, and maybe they don't get to class quite on time. But then during lunch, they use their phone. But again, the whole idea was we want the kids to sit there and interact with each other, not with their phones. So I think it's a bad idea it should be from beginning to end.
You make a good point, Patrick, about just because you're not looking at the phone doesn't mean you're not thinking about it.
Right. And he
So-
talks about that.
So last year, our school district came down and said no cell phones at any time during any of our schools. And it was an unenforceable rule because we have 1,700 kids in our high school and 85 teachers. There's no way we can police that many kids. And to be quite honest, a lot of our teachers, after trying to implement the no cell phones at all during the school, they just gave up trying to fight the kids because all you'd say in class is put your phone away, put your phone away, put your phone away, put your phone away. And we don't have any time to teach. So our high school principals fought for the high schools to be allowed to use them during class change times, before and after school, and during lunch, like you were just talking about, Patrick. And it's failing left and right. The kids are on their phones all the time. They're constantly having them on their laps or checking them. Some of the kids use them to take pictures of the notes on like the TV screen that I have. And then they'll copy them into their notebook instead of having to look up, look down, or look over their shoulder if they're sitting with their back to the TV because they're in collaborative groups and that kind of stuff. But it's not, and not all of our teachers are enforcing it either because it's just too much work. Get off your phone, so they're distracted. They're arranging to meet up during class when they go to the bathroom to vape or do drugs or sell drugs or beat up a kid or whatever. I mean, it's a mess. And my daughter works for a school district where they got the pouches that lock. And they have one school that's testing that. And if it's successful, they're going to implement it in all 5 of their high schools. They're about $20 each. So it's, $30,000 or so for a big school. But she said so far it's been very successful. The kids still have their phone all day long, but they're locked and they can't get to them. They can't access them they can't see them. They can't touch, this touch screen doesn't work. They can't do anything. So it's forcing them to stay off them. And I think that's really, honestly, that's the only thing that would work in a big high school like ours. Because we've just got kids that absolutely refuse to stop using their phones. They're so addicted to them. It's absolutely frightening to me.
Yeah. I wonder if down the road, would be some sort of software solution to this, to basically, the phone manufacturers and the cell phone providers even, but just to be able to establish your phone is of a minor, right? This phone is a minor's phone, and it's going to be a brick from 7:30 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. every weekday. It doesn't do anything. It will not work.
Like a parental control thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
And just
that
and
would
set
work.
it up to automatically be there. I like the pouch idea, but like you pointed out, it's kind of expensive. And logistically it might be difficult, but honestly, it's a solution a school could implement however long it took the pouches to arrive.
Yeah.
Do they just give every kid a pouch and then they walk in and they drop their phone in it? And I understand that the pouches unlock electronically, it's kind of like those theft prevention tags they put on clothing, and you have to touch it to a magnet or something that unlocks it. So kids can't do it, but yeah, I think it will take something like that in high schools because
yeah. I mean, most of our kids, if they have, like you were talking earlier about an issue with transportation after school, in my 4th period class, most of my kids that have issues like that, they'll say, Miss Pratt, can I step out in the hall? I got to call my parents because they just canceled soccer practice and I've got to get a ride home or something, or what. So that'll be yeah, and they'll do it. They'll make their call. They'll be back in. They'll be gone 15, 20 seconds tops. And that I don't mind. Or this is my job. They're calling, my boss is calling me. And we're trying to teach them responsible use, time and place, and when it's appropriate and when it's not. The problem is they just don't have the self-control that they need to be better about task.
Whenever I would have a kid say, I need to call my mom, can I use my phone? I would say, no, you can't use your phone, but here's mine on my desk. You can certainly pick it up and call. And every classroom's got a phone in it, a landline. So I like the pouch idea.
So I'm wondering if we could maybe switch things up a little bit and talk a little bit about the differences in how this all is affecting the boys versus the girls. I wondered if in reading through that section, if that was something that you had anticipated or if that was something that you had expected, or not, if that was a surprise to you. I don't know, thoughts on that idea, the differences that were pointed out between how this was affecting the boys versus the girls.
I think for me, I did anticipate maybe the draw of social media and the detriment to girls. I think what opened my eyes in the book was just about how boys are more affected maybe by the video game world. And this book, it's maybe the first time I've heard about or it was brought to my attention that the draw may be partly that maybe the traditional male world is sort of dwindling in the real world, and that it's being created in this virtual world, and why it's so attractive. And then it's kind of, since I hope I'm saying that right, but since I kind of heard that, I've heard it many more times, like in different arenas and different like shows and stuff. And that was eye-opening for me. Like I didn't really, I hadn't thought about that before. And then the timing of, I guess the author was sort of talking about maybe the delay or maybe that the decline of mental health in boys has been going on for longer, and then is maybe just been exacerbated, more recently by just the video games. But that's the thing when I look at students at school, like there are definitely, I can think of, like at least one boy every year who is just really not social and is always on the phone on a game. Like it is their world. It is their world. So anyway, that was eye-opening to me.
Yeah, I had been aware for a while about the numbers of young men between 18 and I can't remember the upper limit on that, but they were not looking for work. So they're not employed, not looking for work, just out of, and they're at numbers that are staggering, that, it's in like the millions, and they're just not in the workforce. They're just, and it's not, there are numbers at that, like, they're only equivalent to like wartime numbers for no reason. And it's like, what's going on? And so this was the first time I'd heard like an explanation for maybe why this is going on at all. Just like they knew it was going on, but why? And I it's like, oh, there's this failure to launch thing, but why? And so I guess this was kind of like the first stab at an explanation for maybe what's going on for these young men, that there's not this incentive to like get out if they're getting these needs met in other places, in other ways. And so I guess I just felt that, because I guess for me, I'm being female, especially, like I understand like the social media draw. Sadly, I know a young woman who has everything going for her, right? Like 4.0 student, 34 SAT or CT, and basically all the accolades a high school could offer a young woman, and developed an eating disorder. I mean, and she's like, captain of the volleyball team, just beautiful, just like had everything going for her, and still developed an eating disorder shortly after joining social media. And it was like, dang it. It just was one of those things, like the algorithm just it is the most classic example of like, she had everything until social media told her she didn't. And it's like, it's just this, anyway, so like that part of the equation, I kind of understood more, like that makes more sense. Like,
Mhm.
but like the explanation for the young men was the first time I'd heard that. And so I'll be thinking about that one a bit more, because I think and my youngest is a boy. And I think I had rationalized his use of video games, especially because we moved from Arizona and he connects with his Arizona friends still by getting online with them and playing with them. So he'll get his buddies on, like, oh, come on, it's like his best friend's from Arizona, and then one of his really good friends from here in Utah has moved to Alabama, and they all know each other. So the three of them in 3 different states will get online and they play. And I kind of don't feel bad about that, because like he's still maintaining these friendships, but then like to what degree? Anyway, so I wrestle with this thing about like how much time do I allow him to do that? And it's like, I guess it's still, as long as he's still getting outside and he's still, bumping his head every once in a while, like he can still get online and play with his buddies, like that are real people that he's really, I guess like, anyways, these are some of the things as a mom of a real person who's dealing with this stuff. Like, these are the kind of questions, but I think that's the whole point, is to wrestle and have those questions and not just like sit in the other room with my phone and ignore the whole thing. Right. I guess that's kind of the thing I guess we're wrestling with in this whole thing. And that's guess what counts for being a good parent these days. I don't know. Those are the things. That's my contribution.
One of the things with, go ahead, please.
I really like that section was explicit about the fact that the problem with video games negatively impacting boys was basically the part where gambling addiction is built in, since like gambling addiction is the one non-chemical addiction in the DSM. Because like a lot of the earlier research on video games, after the moral panic in the 90s with Jack Thompson talking about Mortal Kombat, showed that there aren't that many negative effects. It mostly just makes you better at spatial reasoning and increases your reflexes. But the turn is when things like Fortnite bring gambling in, where the kids can pay real money for loot boxes that have randomized items in them. I'm really glad it differentiated that, because I run a video game club at my high school. And I've had pushback on this from admin, both at the private school where I did it and at the public school where I'm at now. And I'm like, no, it's actually just a place to socialize. But the name of my video game club is the Old Game Historical Society, because we only play old games for the sake of playing the old games and talking about the old games so they know where the stuff came from. And the kids who have a deep interest in the old games are a lot more social than the kids who all bring in their Switches to play Overwatch in the corner. There is a world of difference between having the kids play an old game co-op side by side on a metaphorical couch versus having them play competitively online in exchange basically to gamble. Like, you literally get more chips to gamble with if you kill more people in Fortnite. It's literally the person who gets the most violence done gets to do the most gambling. It was nice to see a difference between those two things articulated and explained, and to make sense of the impact that it's having on the young men in my classroom.
I'm sorry, I don't remember. Can you tell me, was there anything in terms of sleep deprivation connected with the, competing and gaming at home? I just don't remember if that was in that section of the book.
Yes, it was in there.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Because I would think that's a huge impact on mental health of especially boys.
Well, I think the other thing that's probably worth a mention was the boys aren't just spending their time playing video games. They're going to Pornhub and places like that is affecting the way they, view relationships and things like that. So also addictive, and I think they do that more than girls. It's not that it's, I'm sure there's some girls that do it too, but it kind of just, they don't see they don't see examples of good, healthy relationships between men and women. They see porn.
Yeah, my dad for a while was like worked with youth at our church and like with young, young men, well, young women too, but with the young men, that was the thing he said was the most prevalent, that they would come with the challenges they were working through. He said like that was the thing that was the most prevalent, is that they would come and it's like, I can't kick like pornography. I want to, but I can't. Like I need help. What do I do? And he said it was just made him so sad because these young men would be, I mean, like in their 20s and just every day, sometimes hours a day, just in pornography. And so, now that he's got, grandsons, especially coming up as they turn teenagers, man, he would be very blunt about the the challenges he had seen through that. So I have an 18-year-old now who he had some very frank conversations with, and I'd be like, sorry boy, like your grandpa's gonna have some conversations with you, like just get used to it. Like, and I wasn't sad about it. I was like, yeah, please have those conversations, like please tell them about some of the experiences that you have seen other people have. And like obviously not everyone's going to learn from the experiences of others. Some people are going to have to live life and learn from their own challenges, and that's okay, right? Like that's okay. But yeah, my dad was definitely trying to protect some of the his grandkids from having to live some tough challenges for sure.
Thinking about all these challenges the kids are facing today, I just have to say, I don't think I've ever been as glad as I am now to be a baby boomer. We had our own challenges, but holy moly.
Well, we do have 10 minutes, and I know this is kind of breaking the rules maybe a little bit, but with some of the things that we have seen, what can we do right now? What can we do to help maybe combat some of the things that we've been talking about? I did feel like last time we ended on kind of a sort of note, and I don't want to do that again. So, like what sort of things can you do? Have you done? I'll give you like a short little thing about what, so in my house, in my family, with my kids, we do your devices sleep in our room situation. So one of the things we do is, at the end of the day, we all gather, we do say a little prayer, and then at that point, all of the devices go to mom and dad's room. And so this includes your phone, your computers, all of that stuff, and everything sleeps in our bedroom. So they're just not tempted at, whatever point. And so that's just a little thing. And the devices have a bedtime, you have it. And I'll be honest, it's a little bit early. We do it about 9:00. And that means you don't have to go to bed right now, but that's the start and the unwind time, so that you have, a little bit of a time, but where you are device free before you actually hit the hay. So anyways, that's a little thing that we do.
And there's evidence that shows being device free, screen free for half an hour or more before you go to bed, you'll sleep better. Yeah.
So that's our little way of like trying to give that window to our house.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me. Just less blue light, if anything else.
Yeah.
I think anyone else? One of the things I think that we could collectively do is just be vocal, right? I mean, I think we need to not just not talk about this. The experiment with the smoke I thought was very interesting to me, which is later in the book. But if we say things, if we talk to parents, if we talk to kids and explain how, these are great devices. I mean, smartphone. I mean, it's kind of Star Trek, right? I mean, it's more than Star Trek. Star Trek didn't even think about this. It's everything right there in your hand, and it's very, very powerful. But I guess to quote Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, and we haven't really been thinking about that part of it, right? And it's time to start talking about that. and letting parents know. It's like you know, you don't have to deny your kids all this stuff, but come on, you can't. They like donuts too. You can't just have an unlimited supply of donuts that just keep coming to kids. But you wouldn't do that. That's not healthy. You wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't let them drink soda for every meal all the time. It's like that. It's got its place. You know, Krispy Kremes actually have a place. It's got its place, but it's not unfettered. You can't just and I think we just need to be vocal about that as teachers, as citizens. Just say, hey, let's think about this. Is this really a smart idea? And then, you know, maybe we need resources for parents to be able to say, how can I do this? My kid is so addicted to this. And, you know, you don't have to fight with your kid. Just when my daughter was getting the 13,000 text messages, a quick little phone call to the cell phone provider, and it's like, oh, look at this. It was $5 a month back then, but I could set hours when her phone would work and when it wouldn't work. And I could even set it up so that she could call her mom, me, or her sister whenever she wanted. But other than that, it was like after 9 o'clock at night and not until 7 o'clock in the morning. And then during school hours, her phone just simply didn't work. And I remember as a teacher telling that to a couple of parents. They'd never heard of that before. They didn't know that was a possibility. And so they'd say, oh, I don't know what to do about it. It's like, well, you don't have to fight with them. Just pay the $5 a month and call Verizon and say, turn that thing off during these times. And that's it. Phone just doesn't work. And I don't know if they still have those kinds of things or whether they can block, you know, browsing or apps or things like that. I don't know what the parental controls are like on a current Android or iPhone, but we should communicate, and we should also communicate with the companies that provide these things. Let them know, hey, look, this is what we want. This is what we demand. And maybe even lobby the legislators.
I don't know. I've heard a lot more about restrictive policies in schools lately than I have about education, about, you know, responsible use. And even in this book, I turned to the index to see what he had to say about algorithms, social media algorithms, and there's no entry in the index for algorithms. But I personally think people should be more mindful about how your feed is being manipulated by, you know, unseen forces, and I think people are.
I think that's part of the education.
Yeah. So okay, you're buying thousands of dollars worth of pouches and you're putting the phones in the pouch, but are you really teaching people about how to use this technology, which isn't going away? Or are you just feeling better about it during the school day?
I personally think I agree with what I think you're saying, that we need to deal with it as an education and teaching the kids how to do that. Right now, I feel like we've got a tidal wave coming in that's threatening to swamp us all. It already is, and the pouches are a temporary measure that just at least takes that train and knocks it off the track, so it can't just keep rolling forward. But then, yes, absolutely, we need to, you know, just like every other kind of, you know, when they go on to do research online, don't trust every source you see. You know, Ask Jeeves is not the definitive source.
Oh, just AI your essay. That's okay, Patrick.
There you go. Yeah, that's all we need to do.
Patrick, I just want to go back to, I really liked, and I heard this from a couple folks, the analogy of the food. Like when you think of it, right, biologically and evolutionary wise, right, there were scarcity of food at one time was a problem for us, right? And now having plenty of food around is a problem for us, right? So, and I think the same with information, right? At one time, right, we starved for information and tried to gather all we could, and um, you know, really made the most of what we were able to gather. And now, like you said, we're just flooded with it, and that's not necessarily, a good thing. Um, I just think that analogy helps people understand. I mean, I think we often think more is always better, and I think in this case, it's pretty clear that it's not.
And to run with that food a little bit more, the idea that we have all the food we need, but just like in these social media things, the food chemists that are manipulating the food so that we crave it, right? I mean, Lay's potato chips spoke absolute truth when they said nobody can eat just one. And I'll bet every one of you have tried that before, and
Yeah.
and you failed probably, right? Nobody can eat just one. But that's this thing that you're saying, that what is it about the algorithms? They are manipulating everybody, kids and us as well, and we need to teach them how to deal with that, as well as maybe cut the supply down a little bit.
Eric, you were about to say something earlier. Did you want to hop on?
Yeah, in terms of stuff that can be done, and I'm so sorry, I'm like by a freeway. Is it too loud?
No, you're good.
No?
Okay. In terms of stuff that can be done, my niece is now 18, and she followed me on Instagram when she was 9. And that was definitely a thing where my sister fell into the trap of, oh, well, all the other kids have phones and Instagrams, and her kid will be left out if she doesn't. A thing that's already beginning to take traction with me and all the other millennial parents, because my daughter's 2, is peer pressure, but in the opposite direction, of people with kids with phones and then them wanting to do play dates with other kids. And those parents are starting to push back and being like, you can absolutely come over for a play date. Your kid can't bring their phone because I don't want my kid to see that, which is leading to conversations between parents about the effects being straightforwardly negative. Also at my school site, we're a high school in California, so we just got Governor Newsom's mandate that phones have to be controlled somehow. We're a step ahead. We already have no cell phones during the period. Everybody has an organizer to put them away. But I'm already lobbying and pushing hard for next year for us to have homerooms to start and end the day, so that you meet a teacher, you put up your phone for the whole day, and then the kids gather them at the end, mostly to make it so that passing periods and lunch are now social time instead of everybody just catching up on their phone time. And I've been using the evidence from the book to make that argument with admin. And I think that the way that we should think about the social media algorithm, and definitely the way that we should think about AI moving forward, is exactly the same as nuclear technology. It is fabulous and it does amazing things as long as it's in the hands of experts who know what the negative effects are, so that they can have control procedures for when things go wrong. Like this year, all 3 Nobel Prizes are about AI, but it is a mistake to put that stuff in the hands of the general public. It's just like how if you put nuclear devices in the hands of the general public, nothing good happens. You just get the Goinonia event, which I don't know if you know about the Goinonia event, but it's a bad time. Somebody in Colombia found a nuclear source that was used for an X-ray machine and opened it, and it contaminated an entire city. These things that are powerful should not be handed out to the general public willy-nilly. I don't think people should be able to interact directly with an algorithm that's designed to get them addicted. I think all that stuff should be highly regulated, highly controlled.
Go ahead, Ray.
I just wanted to say, I agree, Eric, in terms of, I know First Amendment rights is a thing that, comes up. And I just think that, I really hope that they find that First Amendment rights do not apply to AI.
AI is people too.
Yeah, I mean, money is free speech. It shouldn't be. I think a logical control for AI, like the same way, is that Same with the Nobel Prizes that went to AI, all fabulous applications of the tool. There should be a human input, and then AI does a thing, but then humans have to do something with the output. I don't think AI should just output, and then that slop should be given to people.
Yeah, it's very interesting, like round of Nobel Prizes for sure. When I saw 2 of them went to my brother's a data scientist, and I'm a chemist, and he was like so flexing on me. He's an AI guy, so he was like, "So, did you like that the chemist, the Nobel Prize went to a data scientist?" And I was like, "Shut up." He just liked to flex on me for that one. Anyway, we are at our time limit. This has been a fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. I really enjoy these. We have one more coming up next month when we'll wrap up this. I hope you all can make it back for that last discussion where we will finally get to talk about all of the proposals he has for helping us navigate this new and interesting landscape. I hope you come with your suggestions as well. And yes, we'll hopefully get that together. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to that discussion. Thanks for coming. Enjoy.